Hey, good afternoon, YouTube. Pastor Pinewood here. We are feeding today. Thursdays is our feed day. If you're not aware, I live in the Texas Panhandle, and about 2 months ago we had devastating wildfires come through, and it destroyed more acreage in Texas than any fire in the history of the state, actually. And so we're trying to, play catch up and trying to get things back where they were. So for the first month and a half or so, I was feeding a lot of different ranches. We had a lot of donated hay, donated feed, a lot of different stuff, and we had just a lot of resources coming in. And some of that is kind of winding down, but Thursdays are my feed day, and I go out and I feed my area ranches. We got about 6 right now that we're working with, and I feed everything. I feed cows, I feed dogs, I feed cats around the house, I feed whatever they want me to feed. I'm more than happy to do it, and that's just my Thursday gig from now for at least another year, I think. And so today we're out on a ranch, and this guy's an outfitter, and we're helping him fill deer feeders. And I won't bore you with the details. I'll show you a little bit of what we're doing, but basically we just come out here and we have these free choice feeders that we have, and these deer can come in and they can get all they want at any time, and we try to keep them filled, like I said, every week. I'm going through quite a bit of feed, but it's really good stuff, really enjoying it. And I wanted to address the question today, why we're feeding wildlife. Why are we spending those resources on the wildlife? There's people who need those resources, there's people who need homes, there's people who need stuff to fill their new homes, all that stuff, and I completely understand that. So I just want to tackle that issue today, try to answer that question, and give you a little bit of insight of why we're focusing some time and energy on the wildlife. And anyway, why don't you just join with me for the day and we'll maybe answer that question. There was something a little funky when I pulled up to this particular feeder. This is the only ranch that I feed on that has pigs actively on it. It's down by the Canadian River, and they're up and down this river all the time. So I knew it was going to be an issue. I didn't know it was going to be an issue this fast. This is just like the week of that we started feeding. Let me show you. If you notice, they ripped the whole top part. Those has wings on each side that bolt into that stupid thing. They ripped that whole thing off there, metal and all, screws and all came out. So I'm gonna have to do something a little more robust in this location. So stand by. We'll see how we can come up with a fix for that. If you got any ideas, drop them in the comments. Well, this makes feeder number 2 that they have knocked down. So the first one was okay. This one again, just like the other one, knocked down. One of the pieces completely gone on the top and left up there and completely ripped out. So the pigs have been giving us some fits on these, so time to regroup and rethink. We got one more feeder to check today. Let's see if they destroyed that one also. And one of the great added benefits of being out on this ranch, this particular ranch, and feeding is the water wells. It is the most pristine water that you've ever had. If you know, you know. All right, feeder number 4 is alive and well. It's been banged around a little bit, but definitely is not destroyed. So we'll go ahead and put some more stuff in it. So if you've ever filled deer feeders before, today the process is just the same as anybody else ever filled deer feeders. You just take a ladder out there and take your bags, you huck 50-pound sacks up the ladder, and then you just empty them into the deer feeder. So there's really not much to it. And today I have the Suburban, and I have another pickup that I've rigged specifically for feeding, and I can't wait to show you all that. It's in the shop at the moment, but next week we'll have it up and running and operational, and I'll show you how we do that. Just give you a little teaser. It's a lot better than this. It's a really cool setup. So just stay tuned. Next Thursday we'll give you another video and show you all the ins and outs about that pickup that we built specifically for this purpose. But today we're in the Suburban, and you just fill feeders like everybody fills feeders, and that's the way it is. Well, the wind got up a little bit, so I'm just going to finish this in the vehicle today. Like I said, we're in the Suburban today. All this stuff back here is donations for our fire relief, so fire victims. So we're going to have a big community get-together and a giveaway in July, and then also a community sale. So one thing that we're dealing with is there's a ton of donations that come in, and I mean, we could clothe the entire county with multiple wardrobes with the amount of clothes that we have got brought in for donations. So we're going to give away what we can, but at the end of that, we're going to open it up to the community and have a sale, and then whatever money is raised from that sale, we'll give that to the fire victims, or fire survivors, as I like to call them. So a couple of questions that were brought to my attention and have been over the last, we've been doing this for 2 months. And a big one that kind of continues to come up, and it comes from a good place, but the question is, people give this money, and let's say you're sitting on $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, and you go out and you want to help the ranchers, and they're the ones that have been affected primarily. Now in the town of Fritch, they had the most homes burned, and I believe, rough numbers, you have about 60 to 65 families that were affected. And if a house caught on fire that night when the wind was blowing so bad, there was nothing partially burned. If your house caught on fire, it's a total loss. And so I'm definitely not downplaying those people who lost their homes. We'll deal with that in another video, what we're doing to help those guys. But the ranchers were kind of the main concern right off the bat. We got everybody in town safe, made sure we didn't lose anybody. I think there was one person who passed away in a town over from us, but in the town of Fritch, nobody perished. We got everybody to the shelter, everybody kind of situated. Now we go out and we start dealing with the ranchers, and they have, livestock loss that you got to deal with. The ranchers, the first rancher I ran into the day after the fire, I asked him what he was doing in town, just kind of making some small talk and trying to feel out if he needed some help, because ranchers are pretty notorious for not asking for help even when they need help. And so I just asked him what he was in town getting, and he said ammunition. And I kind of, what do you need ammunition for? He had to stop shooting his cows because he ran out of ammunition to go into town to get more so he could go back to his ranch and finish euthanizing his cows that were so badly burned that they weren't going to make it. Incredibly sad. So the ranchers needed some help. So one of the things that we started doing, we started collecting hay donations and feed donations almost immediately, and getting those hay and feed supplies out to the ranchers. It kind of evolved into what we're doing now, which is we have a pickup and a trailer specifically designed to get feed to the ranches. And so at one fell swoop, and I'll show you next week when I get everything operational, I can get about 6,500 pounds of all stock, which is just a 13% pellet that anything can eat. So deer, cows, goats, rabbits, quail, well, maybe not quail, but turkeys, anything can eat it pretty much. It's a very mild protein blend. We can get it out. We can put it in feeders. We can put it on the ground. We can lay out hay and spray it on the hay. All kinds of cool stuff we can do. So that was kind of the thought. Here's what we're going to do to help these ranchers in a short to intermediate time span. So one of the things that we have isolated is the wildlife have no help. Nobody is interested in helping the wildlife at all. And I guess that I understand that. And one of the concerns, maybe complaints, has always been, well, the people need those resources. The people are more important. People need that money to go to them, not the wildlife. So here's my response to that. The first one is, all these ranchers that have wildlife on their property, even if they don't hunt, even if they don't sell hunts, even if they're not, even if they're just singularly focused on having like a wildlife preserve. That's all that they're doing. The wildlife add value to the ranches. And so in effect, if you push the wildlife away from the fire, and let's say you don't try to bring them back, they stay dispersed and they leave for a long period of time, or maybe even a short period of time, and they don't come back in the numbers or whatever it happens to be, those ranchers are going to lose out on ranch value. So that's number one. The second one is, a lot of these ranches, I would say 80%, maybe closer to 90%, they sell hunts to supplement their income. So a couple of guys I've talked to run really big cattle ranches, 25, 30,000 acre cattle ranches, and they still sell hunts on their property that lend them like 20% of their annual income. And so to say that is not important, or to say that that's less important than their livestock, well, that's true, because most of their money is made from their livestock. But what if somebody just took 20% of your income away? And what if there was a chance that somebody could step in and say, hey, I'm going to take care of you for a year, get you over this hump, and we'll make sure you keep that 20%. Will you be very happy to keep that 20% of your income? So that's number two. It's a value to them to sell hunts. And then the third thing, I'm feeding on 3 ranches right now that all they do is hunt. All they do is they outfit. They sell hunts. They lease land and they sell hunts, and that's all they. Livestock owners, ranchers, people who own homes with insurance, everybody's got a safety net. There's one group in this fire that does not have a safety net, and that is if you make your money, if you make your living based on wildlife and wildlife activities. If you make your money in that particular way, there is no safety net. There is no state organization. There is no state group that's going to help you. There's no state funds that are going to help you. There is no way to insure those animals. There's no way to insure land that you lease. There's nothing there for them to fall back upon. So they look at this now as the deer disappearing, the antelope disappearing, quail, turkey, even hogs, all those things that they hunt, they're gone, they're displaced. So what are they going to do? And this is going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year process before things get back to quote unquote normal. So if we can spend a little bit of money just here in the first 6 months, first 8 months, maybe a full year, helping those guys keep the animals here, keep the animals even in the burn scar, I think is greatly important. And then number 4, I would just say, animals do not have a voice. So yes, the people in town that lost their homes, they deserve the first cut of that money. The ranchers who lost their ranches and their livestock, they deserve the first cut of that money. But we're getting into the middle to intermediate game here. There's still money on the table. And why can we not spend that money on God's creatures that need a little bit of help, that don't have a voice? I talked to a lady not too long ago when she was telling me her concerns about us feeding wildlife. And she says, well, I know this person and she lost her home and she hasn't been able to get any help. And I said, okay, has she applied for help? Has she made any phone calls? Has she talked to me as a pastor of a church? We are there to help. She said, well, no, she's real weird about that sort of thing. She doesn't really want to tell anybody. Well, unfortunately for her, she's going to have to. There's a ton of help. There's a ton of resources available after a disaster, but you have to step up and ask for that help. And I know it's hard. I know it's difficult for a lot of people. It'd be difficult for me to ask for help. I understand completely, but you can ask for help. And when you do ask for help, with a very few exceptions, you're going to receive some form of assistance. These animals, they can't ask for help. And so there's a very few small amount of us that are committed to helping them even when they can't ask for help. They need it. Trust me, they need it. And we're helping them. So 2 months after the fire, we're seeing animals back in the fold. We're seeing animals come back, munching on the food that we're laying out. Every single week, it seems like most of the feeders we come to are completely empty, which is great. That's a great sign. That means they're hanging around. It means they're getting some supplemental food. It means some of the pastures coming back enough to support them. I think it's fantastic. I believe me and just a handful of others who have concentrated and tried to really help the wildlife have done a really good job. I'm proud of the work that we're doing. I hope you get to a point in your life where you do something that you're proud of the work that you're doing, because it's a really good feeling. So yes, people deserve the first fruits of the gifts after the fire. That's absolutely 100% true. We want to make sure that they're sheltered, that they're fed, that they're clothed, all the things are taken care of, and that they're on a path to their new normal, whatever that is, whether it's a new home or new location or whatever it happens to be. That is absolutely true. It's also true that the ranch owners come first and foremost in my mind. We want to make sure they're taken care of. But that doesn't mean that we cannot also take care of the wildlife in our area, and I think it's important. So that is why we are spending time, spending resources, taking care of these critters. I think it's important. I think it's needed. And I'm proud of what we're doing. If you have any questions about the Texas Panhandle fire relief efforts, what we're doing up here in this part of the country to relieve after the fire, and you might think, well, that's been 2 months. You know, you guys should be well on your way, and it's springtime and summertime, and your pastures are fine, and that it just doesn't happen that fast. Everybody I've talked to that's kind of been through this before says this is a 2-year swing. It'll be 2 years before things are back to, again, quote, normal. And so we're continuing to make sure everybody's handled, taken care of. Lots of stuff going on. I have not done a very good job with keeping you guys updated on my daily activities, and I'm going to admit to you, there's some stuff that we're doing that is really cool, and I think will make for some great YouTube content. So I'm going to get my button gear and make sure to get some of that stuff recorded, and I hope you really just follow along with us, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And man, I guess we'll see you on the next video. God bless you. We'll catch you next time. Even the rabbits are getting a meal.